All right, so just going to kind of get started here. So my name is Teresa Martineau, and thanks all for, I'll wait for the shh. Okay, so thanks to everyone for showing up, and thanks for all the viewers who are watching from their computers at home or in their offices. So just give a quick intro into myself. My name is Teresa Martineau. I work for the Microsoft Research Program Management team. And my primary role, as a lot of you know, is to facilitate the technology, transfer of technology and ideas from the research group worldwide into product groups. And my personal specific focus is the home and entertainment group. So if you ever need help with any of your technologies into any of those products, just let me know. And if it's a different group, MSRPM is the alias. Just generally, you can send a request to, and someone will get back to you. So our speaker today is Joe Belfiore. Joe was my first manager, my first real manager at Microsoft. I don't count my internship managers. When I was a full-time employee, he was my first manager. Worked on Joe on the shell of Windows 95. I think before that you worked on NT. Yep. Just been around for a long time. Big focus on usability and user empathy is one of Joe's strengths for sure. He's now the VP of the Media Center Group and is here to talk to us a little bit about Media Center and their plans going forward and some of their issues. And I have to say, how many of you have Vista running it to start with? How many of you have played with Media Center yet? Not bad, not bad. So I, over the holidays, set up an Xbox as my extender, which Joe talked a little bit about, on my TV and had my Media Center set up. And overall, there were definitely issues. It's not mainstream for everyone. The network issues were actually probably my biggest issues, getting my network set up correctly. But now that I'm running it, I absolutely love it. So if you haven't played with it much, definitely give it a try, and Joe will talk about what's going on. So Joe Belfiore, come on up.
Thank you. So I'm going to try to do a quick walk through Media Center, and it would help me a lot if you all will tell me if I'm saying stuff you already know and is boring and you want me to move faster, or if give me blank looks if I'm going too fast, because I want to adjust to your level of knowledge. Let me ask, just on top of what Teresa said, how many people are really using Media Center significantly at home? Okay, a pretty good percentage of you. How many of you have never really tried it significantly? Okay, good mix of both. So I'll try to cover some deep topics as well as some basic stuff. And I'll try to leave time for Q&A. It's worth mentioning the space that we're, a little bit of background and history. I worked on Windows products all the way up until Windows XP shipped, and then I moved over to eHome, which at the time was this startup group. That was 2001. eHome has shipped a version of Media Center basically every year on a yearly schedule since 2002. Although Vista took a little longer because Vista was so big and highly integrated and complex. So we sort of missed a holiday because of Vista, and we're trying to get back on a yearly ship schedule. So that's 5 versions of Media Center. And one of the things that we've tried to do is be quite incrementalist in our approach, because trying to realize this broad dream requires so many partners to get on board that if you wait until you do one great big thing in 4 years, now you're going to have to wait 3 years for all the partners to do work. So we try to do incremental things and bring them along, and I'll talk about that story a little bit. And there's been pros and cons to that. Mostly, I think it's been quite positive, although it has the negative side effect that people will have checked in on Media Center, tried it and said, oh, it has this shortcoming or that shortcoming, not good enough, and then a year or two will go by and we're working on those problems. So often there are people who have sort of a stale idea of where we're at. It's a super dynamic space, and it involves tons and tons of partners, so I'll get into that in more detail, and I'm sure a lot of your questions will too. So let me jump in. What this slide deck, what the basis of this slide deck was, is we were in the Windows group for a long time, and we sort of decided as Robbie Bach was forming what's now the Entertainment and Devices group and focusing all up in the company on entertainment, we thought it made sense for our team to be part of that. We wanted to be involved in the strategic planning, and we think that Media Center is an asset that makes a lot more sense when you combine it with a bunch of the other things that E&D is doing. So at the time we moved, Kevin Johnson was taking over Windows, Steven Sinofsky was new to Windows, Robbie was new to Media Center, my manager Brian Lee was new to Media Center. So we put together this deck as a boot camp to teach, basically to teach senior execs about who the heck we are, what our business is, what's good about it, what's bad about it, what we think we need to work on, what we don't. And I've taken what we actually did as a 4-hour meeting with a whole bunch of these folks and tried to condense it down to like 8 slides. And so there's some stuff that, it might seem a little uneven. in terms of how well I cover all the topics, but it'll give you certainly some interesting information and a lot of good foundation for asking questions. So that's what the basis of this deck is. Let's see if I can figure this thing out. What I want to start with is how we think about Media Center from a vision perspective. When I meet with partners, and a lot of people just are not that familiar with it. It's not something that the company is promoted in huge visible ways. So how do I tell the story about what it is about and what it's for? And if you were let's say you were a movie studio, this is basically the way I would introduce it, and here's why I would tell you what we're doing is unique. There are three parts to the vision of Media Center, and all three really matter. The first is that we're going to build a simple, compelling end-user experience that has features and value and benefit in and of itself that you could describe to some end user, and they might say, oh, I want that. And the features and value of this simple user experience fundamentally are the thing that we hear from our customers and users that they like best and value most about Media Center is that it is a simple, integrated, all-in-one experience for consuming lots of different kinds of digital media. That's it. And what they value in that is the fact that it removes complexity. And this is sort of an interesting comment to make because there are some characteristics about the way we go to market that cause complexity, like the idea of using a PC, complex. The idea of needing a home network, well, that's complex too. But on the other hand, the benefits once you get it set up, you only need one remote control. You don't need one for your DVD player and one for your music if you have it and one for something else, a different one for your cable provider. You have a consistent user experience across all these media types, not different ones. And you get all these benefits of the same content in lots of screens of your house. So that part of the value proposition is strong on simplicity. And one of the things that you'll hear as a recurring theme through this for us is that we think we have a really great nugget of value that is kind of going to market in the wrong way or on the wrong box. And so how do we fix that? We also think we're way ahead of the market. As Teresa said, like when you get the vision of this thing where you have multiple screens in the house with inexpensive devices, you rely on a home network. And today the state of the art for home networking, not that good. And that's a statement of simplicity and setup. It's also in large part a statement about retail and go-to-market and what products the companies are putting on end caps and selling for $79.99. So the first thing is this simple user experience. Second thing is that we view it as a platform. And when I meet with partners, what I say, and I try to be inarrogant, non-arrogant, but at the same time proud, in my opinion, what we have is the world's best platform for writing remote control-driven interactive media applications. I think that's just true. If you are ESPN or Showtime or HBO and you want to create an interactive media consumption experience, I don't think you have any choice that is even nearly as good as Media Center is. Why is that the case? Mostly because the Windows-based PC itself is the world's greatest platform for doing just about anything. It includes lots of great internet technologies. It's highly used. The people that you're hiring already know how to write to the platform. It's very a rich and full-featured client as opposed to a really inexpensive set-top box with 64 meg of memory and a really slow processor. So you can create rich, compelling things with tools you already have, using code you've already written, and people that you can hire that already have expertise for how to write it. So there is no set-top box kind of device that has those characteristics at all. None. On top of that, it's a high-volume platform. Another economic decision that a partner has to make in terms of whether they're going to invest in a platform is, are there lots of sockets to sell into? Well, you can leverage whatever code you write for Media Center to target any PC. First, you could write in HTML and it'll work anywhere. Second, Media Center itself is high volume. And I'll talk a little bit more about this, but we announced at CES that we've shipped 30 million of them, and that number is going up by about 4 or so million a month. So it's a high volume platform. And that's a characteristic that makes sense to these folks. So I'd say number two, it is a platform for third parties to go add value beyond the value that we create. And I would argue it's a very compelling platform at that. And I'll talk about that in a little bit more specific later. And then the third thing, and actually 1 and 2, I like to draw an analogy between 1 and 2 and Windows itself. You know, back in the day, you had command line user interface, and the keyboard was the input method. And we said, well, gee, there's a different presentation form that we could use that would reach more people, need a different hardware input device, the mouse, need a graphical user interface that's designed for use with the mouse. It has constructs in its platform for pointing and event-driven programming, all that sort of stuff. And so that idea of there's a basic user experience which at the time with Windows was really basic. You had like Notepad. And then you had apps written to this. The analogy holds here. We've created platform technologies that are designed to work with a remote control. The remote control is an alternate hardware input device. But there's one thing about this that's a little bit different. And that's my third point, the notion of connected devices. And what I really mean by that are what we talk about as media center extenders, where the issue is for someone to write an application that is intended to work with remote control, with a great platform, let's assume that we have a great platform, for that to show up on the desktop PC in the home office but not on the TV set is clearly missing a big part of the value proposition that you would want to deliver to consumers. So the question is, how do you get it off the PC device and onto the TV set? And this triangle is very intentionally designed and has benefits, I think, that are significant in the way these pieces relate to each other. Because what we do is we say, that's part of the value that we're going to provide. We're going to create this notion of extenders. We're going to get them out there at high volume. We're going to make them really low-cost devices. And you, Mr. Content Company or Service Company or Application Company, don't have to worry about that. You write your app to the PC. We will remote you out there to the TV screen. Well, what are the benefits of that? There's a ton of benefits of that. First is you can write your app to a fat platform. You don't have to worry about a thing that's only got 64 mega memory. You don't have to worry about a thing that has a really poor API set and really bad tools. You get to write to the fat platform, and then we do the work of remoting. Second thing is from an economic and architecture standpoint, we'd argue this is a great way to do it. Because consumers are really used to spending $1,000 on a PC, and they replace it every 4 years, and they get another really fast one with a bigger hard drive. They're accustomed to investing for power there. But they're also accustomed to never spending more than $2.99 on a thing you hook up to the TV. And so the balance of power investment makes sense. Spend money on the PC, which will do processing, storage, and run the fat platform. That's where all the brains are. And spend as little money as possible on 5 things that you hook up to 5 TVs and let the PC do most of the work. So in terms of user experience, you get a lot of actual benefits. And there's a real-world analogy I like to give, which is the TiVo guide. I have nothing against TiVo, great product. I have one. I've had a TiVo and Replay TV. One of the downsides of the architecture, it's getting better now that they charge $800 for a TiVo Series 3, but one of the downsides of the architecture is you go to TiVo, you click the guide, you hit page down, and you wait. Chunk, 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 chunk. You hit page down, you wait. Chunk, 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 chunk. Well, if the PC is doing all the work for you and you've got a fast Pentium processor, or whatever they're called now, Core Duo, that doesn't happen. All you have to do is paint bits. And there's a whole hardware industry that's really good at making really cheap DSPs for painting bits on screens. So the economic model of cheap devices out there on the edges hooked up to TVs, and all they need to do is render video and render UI, but intelligence and app development on the PC is a model we think is a great one. It's great for people who want to write apps because they only have to target one thing, and it's great for consumers because they can get inexpensive devices where you want inexpensive and more powerful where you want it. It has its drawbacks too. It counts on the home network. And today, home networking is not where it needs to be for this thing to be realized in massive volume. We're pretty confident it will get there. Is that 3 years or 5 years or 8 years? Don't know. But that sort of gives you a sense of how we think about this from a vision perspective and how these pieces make sense with respect to each other. Okay, I probably spent way too much time on that, but I'll keep going. There's 2 things. I want to talk about some of what we think our strengths are and what we think some of our weaknesses and challenges are. This is what we said to the senior execs. First, I think I might have kind of said this, although I probably didn't say it quite this way. In my opinion, and I'm heavily biased, but there's data to support this, I think that once you get it set up and you're using it, the design and feature set and value in our user experience is the best 10-foot media consumption experience there is anywhere in the world, period. And I think it's better than TiVo. I think that's our closest competition, frankly, in terms of elegance, ease of use, good design, good features. And from there, you drop off precipitously. Cable set-top boxes, generally not very good. Microsoft has done some great work. And IPTV actually will be quite compelling, although not as fully feature-rich from a broad media-type perspective. Very good and deep on TV, but not as good and deep on music and pictures and DVD burning and CD burning and all that sort of stuff. But I think that one of the things that we have here that's an asset is this great experience once you solve for its go-to-market problems and setup problems. We ship annually. We actually get bits out the door. We're productive. The volumes have been going up. This is actually a little bit oldish data. The Vista is now shipped, and we're seeing premium mix, which is Home Premium plus Ultimate, both of which contain Media Center, and Media Center is the primary value proposition for premium, up around 70-ish% worldwide, which is great. It's significant growth. We had a lot of growth in the fall of 2006, both because we've kept working on it from a Media Center perspective, and also because OEMs and retailers started to anticipate Vista and wanted to sort of grease the skids for Vista coming. So we're shipping this thing in great volume, which is a very useful and healthy thing, both in terms of making money and in terms of getting it out there for the ecosystem. We know that it's changing consumer behavior. When we talk to consumers who have it, they think differently about their digital media. And in fact, a specific thing that's interesting is they tend to buy more other stuff. So if you're an OEM, for example, it costs you basically $8 more to choose to put Home Premium on your machine as opposed to Home Basic. And we have lots of data that shows that you'll sell, or at least someone will sell, $8 worth of more stuff to that consumer once they get more involved in doing digital media kind of stuff. And the net, this useful to the senior execs, we're profitable as a group. So those are all good things. Also very interesting are the challenges. I like to be very upfront. We don't think we really actually have a product for the living room here. We think that we have really good technology that can form the basis for future products in the living room. But what we have today, except for the highest end, most sophisticated, leading edge technology enthusiasts, it's not a mainstream product for the living room. Why is that? Well, the PC itself still isn't. If you take, there are certainly OEMs that are building PCs designed for the living room or the family room or the AV rack, and they're generally good, but they're also really expensive. Cheapest ones you can find are like $900. The good ones are $1,500 to $2,200. Why is that? Because it's early, because those things are taking massive custom engineering, because the people who buy them today are generally price insensitive, and the OEMs can charge it. They're trying to recoup their investment, so it just makes sense. It's early, early, early. That's one reason. Another reason is that a lot of people still, you say to your ordinary Walmart customer on the street, hey, you want to put a PC in your family room? What? PCs are for web browsing and email. Why would I hook that up to my TV? It's not a value proposition that is anywhere near mainstream psychology for people, and that takes years to happen. They're now getting used to the idea of portable music players. Lots of concerns about complexity and reliability still. Maybe Vista helps with that. Maybe it doesn't. That remains to be seen. We've got to get it out there and do service packs and make the drivers really good. And Extender is we think, a great future value proposition for the living room. But today, people do not have home networks in general, and they certainly do not have video-capable home networks. So, we are ahead of the market. We're ahead of the market, and we have to think very carefully about our go-to-market and our packaging, and whether we're at the point yet where we can make a real strong appeal to the broad mainstream consumer. Doesn't mean the work's not valuable. We're profitable. We're making the premium business for Microsoft's going to be a $500 million business. We're getting premium content flowing into the PC. We're getting a lot of good stuff done. But today, we don't really have a product for the living room for regular people. We have historically had a problem with weak sales outside the U.S. That's getting better now. The main reason that that's happened is that we don't have superb worldwide coverage for all the new digital TV standards that have come up all over the world. One of the things that is sort of a recurring theme here is that building TV support into Media Center is just expensive. And there's a lot of variations, and every time you have a different proprietary company, a DirecTV, a Dish, US Cable, Canal Plus in France, everybody has their different needs and requirements, which implies work. Their new digital standards have just started to emerge over the course of the last few years, and those all take work. And that's been a big part of the reason why we've had weak sales. We think we're shipping every year is fast innovation for an operating system, but slow compared to what Yahoo and Google are doing. Worrisome. We think that the business model of selling this $8 uplift to window, it sort of peaks once you get to 70 or 80%. And we're about there now, so there's not new growth in it. So what do we do? Is that okay? Do we go look for new business opportunities? So on. I mentioned that TV support is expensive, and we think that the timing of this is an interesting question, but so far we have not collectively as a company done a great job of telling the story of Media Center to consumers. There's low consumer awareness, and you'll hear more about this later. And that's okay, but it comes at a cost if we never do it. Generally, people don't know about it. They don't know what its benefits are. We're not doing TV commercials. So we have to think very carefully about this and be very specific about how we're going to deal with it. Okay, a lot of people always ask me, all right, so Media Center, you sold 30 million copies. Oh, and a few other facts I should tell you which weren't covered in that slide. You might wonder, well, what are those machines like that Media Center is shipping on? So let me tell you a little bit about that. Mostly the machines that are shipping Media Center are ordinary desktop PCs without TV tuners and without remotes. And so you might say, well, geez, that doesn't really make any sense. The whole thing was designed to work with a remote, and isn't its main value proposition TV? Well, yes and no. It works fine with a mouse and keyboard. And if you consider the whole picture I told you, if there's a compelling video service that's on the internet and you have an Xbox 360, a desktop PC without a TV tuner is perfectly fine for you to enjoy a killer value proposition in your family room with the Xbox. In that mode, the PC is the server. And you never run the bits interactively on the PC itself. You only run them through Extender. So for pictures, music, third-party web services, the value proposition of Media Center built into desktop PCs with no remotes and no tuners is perfectly good because of Extender. Yeah?
This is 30 million units before Vista?
Before Vista.
So these are people who actually installed the Media Center version of Windows?
Kind of, but I'm going to answer more precisely than what you said. It is OEMs who pre-installed Windows XP Media Center Edition and sold a PC. Okay? And so some percent of those consumers knew what they were buying and some didn't. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Okay? Which is both a good and a bad thing. It's just interesting. So anyway, I was back to the value props. Mostly these are desktop PCs. One value proposition is you could use it as a server for Extender. Another is a surprising number of people actually use Media Center with a mouse and keyboard, and they just like it. It's swoopy. It's simple. One of the things you see on here, which I'm going to go to in a minute, is that people use it to burn disks. It's just easy. They don't have high levels of desire to invest in learning technology, and it's just a simple UI, period. So that's a value proposition today, whether we intended for that to be one or not, or whether we think that's our main goal or not, it's a fact. Of the PCs shipping right now, because the volume has gone up so much, about, I want to say 13 or 14% are shipping with TV tuners. And there's an interesting thing. You may say, well, gosh, that's not very many, which is kind of true as a proportion of the whole installed base. But on the other hand, in the US, the rate of TV tuner shipping has gone up quite a lot. And it's continuing to go up year over year. So, there's a lot of interesting go-to-market questions here. You could say, well, you should have maintained the requirement for the TV tuner. But I would have argued we wouldn't have really increased the number of TV tuners sold very much by doing that. And by dropping the requirement, we get lots of sockets out there for people to write apps to and for you to hook extenders up to. And besides that, if you buy a PC that doesn't have a TV tuner, you try Media Center and like it, that might make it more likely that next time you buy one, you'll say, oh, I want one with a TV tuner. So these are all sort of the interesting dynamics. Every year we do a survey of the install base to find out what people use it for. Oh, sorry, you had a question?
I'm just curious about something. You have a really TV-centric view of Media Centers, and that seems very strange to me.
You think that I was portraying a very TV-centric?
And I haven't heard the word Zoom once, at least I was late, so I didn't see that. But the notion that once you've got anybody's got an iPod or a Zoom, has their entire CD collection probably already on hard disk, so is that not the obvious and the easiest entry point? That now I've got it there, my Zoomer isn't in the living room, so I still want access to my audio? And with the remote, who cares about video in the first instance? I want access to my music that I've already paid for.
I'm going to not answer your question directly. I'm going to talk about some data, and I'm going to try to answer it indirectly. And if I haven't successfully covered it, ask me again later. Okay?
How many people from the Zoom team are attached to your team, vice versa, and likewise for the mobile?
I'll answer that question right now. The Zoom team, interestingly, and so this will probably surprise you, my group right now is eHome, which builds Media Center, and the Zune client team. And the guy who's running the 2007 Zune effort, Mark Weinberg, has been working on Media Center for the last 5 years and just switched over. So there's very high interaction and discussion and collaboration between Zune and Media Center. Less so. Some, but less so. And the other thing that's interesting about Zune is Zune is so early right now that it's very hard for either our team or their team to justify significant investments in stuff that makes them work well together, which sounds really bad, but it's truthful. Zune has only sold, not even 1 million units sold through yet, so from our perspective, it's a real tiny thing. It has no real significant impact in the market yet. And from a Zune perspective, even 30 million media centers isn't that many. So we have to make artificial decisions based on the strategic value of these things working better together to do stuff that isn't supported by market data by itself, which we will do. And the other fact there is that those guys, it was an amazing effort on their part to get the thing shipped at all for the holiday. And so it was not a high priority for them to do bonus features up and above. But we'll definitely get them done. And I actually feel pretty good about the level of collaboration and thinking. And I'll talk a little bit more about it as I get going. So we do a survey every year. In the past it was a phone survey, but this past year we did it on the internet explicitly because we wanted to make sure that when we ask somebody, do you use Media Center? You're on the phone. Do you use Media Center? They don't go, oh yeah, I use Media Player, yes. And not really know what they're talking about. So if you do an online survey, you get to show a picture. Did you use the thing that looks like this? So you get more accurate data. So this is the data. One slide summary of the data. The blue is across the entire installed base. What features do people use? Number one top most used feature in Media Center, photos. So you asked me, you said you had the premise that I was all about TV, and I certainly did talk about the cost of doing TV. But in actual usage, number one, photos. Okay? Which, by the way, I think supports the idea that a tunerless Media Center that might someday just be a server for Xbox extenders for all these people to get their photos on their high-def TV, pretty compelling value proposition. Number two is music, and in particular burning CDs, and then it goes down the list. Listening to music, backing up by burning data, DVD movies, and so on. The blue, again, is the entire installed base. 25% of the installed base says they use Media Center to watch live or recorded TV. 24% say they burn TV shows and videos to DVDs, and it goes down. And there's a little bit of oddness in the data here, but just look at it from a macro perspective instead of from a micro perspective. Yeah?
How many people actually have their Media Center PC hooked up to a TV?
Hooked up to a TV. Now, I have to try to remember this, and I think
This would suggest not very many, right?
my recollection is on the order of 15 to 20%.
Which kind of...
Well, yes and no.
There's some people that are sitting in front of their PC watching TV.
In fact, a significant number of them are sitting in front of their PC and watching TV, because another useful value proposition is I want to do email and watch TV. And I'm doing those things together as a PC app.
I'll do it from the couch.
You want to do that too. You can do that too. Right? So you're asking me the question, how many people have either had awareness of and overcome the technical hurdles of somehow connecting their PC to a TV? And my recollection of this number, which is a little foggy, as of the time we did this survey, was about 15-ish%, which honestly is higher than I would have guessed.
Yeah, I mean, so this is predominantly like of a PC.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Now the green. Go ahead.
What are the demographics of the users?
These are regular people.
Okay.
There's no, we used to think that when we shipped version 1, this is sort of a combination of how we pitched the story and also who we thought would like it. We had this whole thing, it's going to be college students in their dorms. Because you could tell the story, you really only want one PC and it doubles as your TV. That's not at all what's happening. The demographics of the install base of Media Center is the same as the demographics of the install base of people who buy PCs. That's it. And it's also interesting, if you go drill into the data, we have lots of stories of, an elderly couple that, he sits at the PC and likes to watch TV on the PC because his wife wants to use the TV in the same room. They don't want to be in two different rooms, and I forget which one, but one of the two of them can't hear very well, so they turn it way up, and it's nice to have another screen. There's just a ton of scenarios, and it's wide-ranging, and it's not some niche thing in terms of a type of person that does it. Okay, the green is how the data changes if you only look at the set of people who have TV tuners. Okay, so of course, if there's a really small number of TV tuners, then you can't have that many people using TV. But if you look at the number, if you only look at people with TV tuners, then these scenarios go up a lot. So of the people who bought a PC with a TV tuner, 70% of them are now using it for TV. Okay, that's good news. And so on down the line. So you can see when you get a TV tuner shipped, either because it was more expensive, a person self-selected it who knew they were going to want to use it and then did, or it's the simple fact of its presence was appealing enough that people would start using it whether they had intended to originally or not. One of those two things. Down here is use the online spotlight feature. The online spotlight feature is our, it's web-based, so it used to be implemented in HTML. Today it's not. It's our web-based portal for users to find these third-party apps. 7%, not very good. And why do we think that is? Combination of factors. One, apps that were not very compelling. Apps that were not very compelling both because they were poorly written, which is a fact of low investment on the part of the app writers, which is not that surprising when you have a small installed base. You've got to grow your installed base and grow your usage, and then have people start making money, and then they'll invest more. And also a fact of us just not having the best design. Do people get what online spotlight is, and when they go in it, is it fast and engaging? Will they come back? No. So that's a thing for us to do better at. Okay. This is sort of the same topic, but a different way of looking at it. This is the marketing view on the data, not the pure usage view. So out there in the real world, how many people know about Media Center? How does it influence their purchase decisions? And then do they use it or not at all? And then when they use it, how often and how much do they use it? And then would they buy again, or would they recommend that somebody else buy it? And usually the marketing funnel goes like this. You got to do giant advertising and spend a bunch of money so that people will know you even have a value proposition. And then only some people actually learn about it, know its benefits, and then only some of them buy it, and then only some of the ones that buy it use it. That is not what's happening here. And that's not that surprising because we, Microsoft, have this massive distribution asset. And we should think about how we use that distribution asset and see what actually happens. So, all up, going down the funnel. This was from the same survey, spring of last year. 52% of the people who got Media Center even knew they got it. You know, it's always interesting for me to tell that, and then I get a reaction from the audience, and I'm thinking what's going through your head because I've done this talk a million times. And you're probably thinking, that's terrible. Well, is it? I mean, it is and it isn't. On the one hand, it saved us $200 or $300 million from doing a marketing campaign, and by the way, we got paid. So it's a very efficient way to go get customers, if it actually works. Well, that's the interesting question. Do people try it? Do they like it? Do they use it? Would they buy it again? And do we have the right mix of relatively low awareness? Does it need to be a little higher? Or is it working perfectly good and we shouldn't spend any money? These are interesting questions. So going down the thing, only 52% even knew that they had bought it. Only 30% actually knew what it was and what it was for. So, even lower. But this, if you think about the real world, put yourselves in the shoes of go into Walmart and look at the people who are shopping in Walmart. Go into Best Buy and look at the people who are asking the Best Buy people questions. They are thinking about Britney Spears. They're not thinking about what version of the operating system is on their computer. So this is not surprising. This is how the real world works. And it's difficult, expensive, and time-consuming to change the mentality of a society of people. So this is where we are in that long, difficult, expensive thing. And we're lucky that we have this distribution asset we have. So 31% had knowledge of it before they bought it. The good news is that 77% of people tried it. So that means you got a shot. They didn't even know, and now you got a shot. That's better than a TV ad. They already clicked. Now they're in it. Do they like it? Will they stick? And will they use it? And the other thing that I like to say is, that 77% number basically says this is how valuable it is to ship a hardware device with a big green button on it, and or to put a big green button in the Windows Start menu with a title that's somewhat engaging. People will click. Now what do you do with it once they clicked? So 77% tried it, and then you net out the funnel. And I actually feel quite good about this. 44% say they used it weekly. 12% said they use it daily. And I like to talk about those numbers a little bit too. Think about an average consumer. What do they do daily on a PC? Browse the web, email. Anything else? Not really. I mean, that's an incredibly high bar. Some people, some teenagers, I am, and maybe listen to music. Probably. Those are probably the big four, really. And that's all there is. There's not, there's nothing else that people do daily. And so to achieve that level of usage, man, you got to have some incredibly special thing. So that just sort of puts that in context. Weekly is sort of a similar thing, too. I'm a big photo enthusiast. I love photos. I don't acquire and organize photos weekly. because I have a screensaver, actually because I have Media Center, I look at photos daily. They come up automatically. In fact, we need to make them come up even more automatically, the consumption of photos. But even today on a desktop PC, your use of photos weekly, I think not a lot of people. So I actually think these are, I feel okay about these. And I expect that once Vista gets out there, it'll be interesting to see whether they go down because it's a wider, bigger audience, or whether they maintain because we did a good job of continuing to add value, keep people engaged. And then coming out the funnel, of those people, 35% said they would absolutely want to have it again on their next PC, which is great. You know, considering 31% even knew about it going in, we feel okay about that. We'd love it to be higher, but we feel okay about that. And then, actually, I'm not sure how this, within that, 28% said they must have a TV tuner. Now let's cut this data in two different ways. I already talked about these, I already talked about those. Let's look at the difference between the people who did have a TV tuner and the people who didn't. They didn't have a remote or a TV tuner. And what you see is, generally, all the numbers are quite a bit higher related to having a TV tuner versus not. If you had a TV tuner, there was higher awareness, higher knowledge, higher trial. Your weekly usage, your daily usage was twice as high. In fact, compared to the people without a tuner, it was 4 times as high. So what that says to us is, I'll say TV, but really what it means is engaging high-quality video content, because who cares how you got it, right? TV, broadcast TV is a package that everybody understands. That certainly matters. But it's high-quality video content causes people to have higher usage, to have higher higher repurchase intent, and so on. Yeah?
So just a little question about that. It seems like if you're going to buy a system with a TV tuner, you're buying it at a significant premium over the others. So there might be a chicken and egg.
No, absolutely true. It's not necessarily causal, but it's certainly correlated. And I would say we would make the leap that it certainly will help. And so one of the things you'll hear me talk about is, well, what do we do to get more TV content in? What do we do to make tuners cheaper, to make tuners subsidized, to make tuners easy to attach to PCs that you already sold, or to deliver TV services that don't need tuners at all and just go over the internet? And so we think that, if you go back to my list of things that people do every day, they do email, they browse the web, you know what? They watch TV too. And so if you can engage on that activity on the PC or in our ecosystem, then that's probably pretty compelling. So that's the theory. Okay. It's pretty interesting stuff, don't you think? It's useful to have this data. Okay, so now I'm going to move off of sort of what people are doing with it and all that kind of stuff and talk more about what we're shipping. I'll do a quick demo and then I'll talk about futures. We've had this slide. This is how we talk to people about what is Media Center in Vista. And we'd say, well, it has these 5 main things. So if you're already familiar with this, I apologize, but if you're new to this, then these are the 5 exciting things that are in Vista Media Center and the way in which we're moving the ball forward. So the first is broader availability. When you do a startup at Microsoft, it's a miracle you can ship it first, and you're typically only in one country, and you have all these go-to-market issues. Zune faces that now. It's in one country. Media Center had the same problem. Pre-Vista, we were in 32 countries, and that we had incremented our way up to over 5 releases. In Vista, it's 190 countries. And it does not give you that kind of a volume increase because the volumes in each of those additional countries is really small, but it's certainly broader availability. In addition, it's in the Home Premium SKU and the Ultimate SKU, which have a broader value proposition than just Media Center standalone, which will cause the volume to go up as well. Some people will get it because of Aero. And the 2 main value propositions in Home Premium are Aero and Media Center. So that will certainly help. The marketing and positioning. Home Premium is the, I forget, it even says in the box, it's the recommended PC operating system for most home use. And Home Basic is, well, this is the OS you want if you're kind of lame and don't really want to do anything. I mean, that positioning will matter. So those things cause broader availability. Another fact, this is the first time in 5 years that you could go buy the software and install it on your own PC. Up until Vista, you had to buy a new PC, which certainly limited availability. Biggest feature that people have been asking us for, which we got done, is now in Vista, is support for native digital cable high-definition content. Cable is the #1 TV broadcast source in the US in terms of volume. It's hypothetically the easiest to install because you don't have to put a dish on your house. And so in Vista, we now support digital cable. This by itself is a long and interesting topic. I'll give you a few quick highlights of it because you're possibly curious. we thought we were going to ship this a year earlier. It literally took us a year and a half to negotiate the deal with cable. The broadcast industry, in general, as a general statement, really does not love the idea of having their content flow through PCs. Or they really do not love the idea of us building, designing, controlling, and owning the user experience that their content flows through. They view that as a loss to their future ad revenue or a threat to their business. So the truth is, in my honest opinion, and I was deeply involved in negotiating this would not have happened if there wasn't an FCC mandate for them to expose their services through third-party devices using cable card. So the way this works is we built a reference design for a digital cable tuner with a cable card slot that connects to your PC through USB. ATI is building those now. It just got its final certification from Cable Labs literally on launch day. And the PC OEMs will be building them. Sony will be building it into a Vio XL3 PC. Niveus is building it into a separate standalone unit that has 2 of them and 1 power cable. You put in 2 cable cards. HP is working on their plans. Dell is going to come to market with an external one. You buy your PC and then you add on the digital cable tuner. They'll probably charge $300 for it, is my guess. Pros. It's a great solution. It has a super nice UI. The guide is fast. The video looks great. It streams to 5 extenders. You can put a giant amount of hard drive space on your PC, have Xboxes on every other TV, and you get a super experience throughout your house. So once you got it set up, it's great. Cons. Cable requires that all of the content be encrypted to the PC, so the only scenario that's supported is streaming to extenders. You can't put it on your Zune or burn it to a DVD or take it with you on your laptop. We will get over that hump eventually. I don't think that they know that they cannot stand on that position. They just slowed that down because they like going slow. But we'll get past that. Another con is that the digital cable tuner itself is pretty expensive. It's a pretty smart device, and the bill of materials to build them is about $100. I think it's 90 something. And because this is going to be a small enthusiast market, ATI is going to mark it up a lot to the OEMs to recoup their engineering costs, and the OEMs are going to mark it up a lot. So these PCs are going to be low in number and expensive initially. Yeah?
Sort of take issue with that and relate that back to your bullet point on the previous deck that talked about how Media Center doesn't right now, because of the nature of the box, people find about doesn't really target the living room. You know, in the HD TV era, when you go down to Comcast and see thousands of people, hundreds of people lining up to get a cable box so they can watch Super Bowl on HD, you know, it's a different world now, and there's thousands of us that have these crappy set-top boxes that we just like to toss out the window and bring in Media Center, and yet
you would like it to be cheaper and more widely available? So would I.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
But the way you reflect your positioning and where you guys are looking at is it's almost.
I'm not telling you.
Right now.
No, let me be honest. I'm not telling you what I want.
Yeah.
I'm being honest with you about reality. Like, this is the way the market works. You do a device like this initially, and these guys are going to charge a lot of money for it up front because they can, and the first wave of people will...
I'm actually not quarreling with the cost. I'm more quarreling with the way you sound like you're positioning yourself as almost the HD TV sort of value add in that living room.
Yeah.
The whole living room story is incidental. It's like...
No, I don't think that. And if I'm coming across that way, I apologize. It's certainly not my intention. What I said when I started this point is that it's the #1 feature that people have been asking us for and valuing. And we spent a huge amount of time and energy to get it done. And like I said, once you get it, it's great. So we love the scenario. We're super proud of it. But I'm trying to be honest that it has go-to-market problems in the short term related to its expense and difficulty to get.
It's not a niche value add.
No, I didn't mean to imply that. I didn't mean to imply that no one would want it. I actually think tons of people will want it. I think the problem is, in the short term, it's going to be relatively hard to get because it's going to be expensive and it's going to require a new PC, which is super unfortunate. We hate that fact, but we had to do it to get the deal done and be able to offer it all. Sort of a meta point in all of this, because of the fact that U.S. cable or satellite generally, they're very leery of having their services go on the PC. They get full control of the cable box. They don't really want to do this. So we have to make significant compromises to get this stuff done at all, which we will. And then the next step that happens is the marketplace and consumer demand and reviewers and competition will take over, and it'll all keep getting better and better and better. And we're not going to stop. But I just want to be honest and realistic with all of you who potentially are excited about this capability, that it's not all wine and roses just yet, but once you get it, you're going to love it. It's just going to be a little hard to get. Yeah?
You talk to the phone companies?
Yes, although right now we don't prioritize that super high because, oh, sorry, repeat the question. Do we talk to the phone companies? Yes, although right now not a super high priority for us because they have, as of today, maybe 15,000 users. And by the way, if you live in Seattle, you can't even get it. So we will get to that, and you're going to hear me talk about a roadmap for getting all this TV stuff done. And competition is a critical part of that, but not yet. Cable was first. Yeah.
Do you have the same legal difficulties with over-the-air HDs?
Do we have the same legal difficulties with over-the-air ATC? No, no problem. It's an open standard. We've been shipping that for 2 years?
Yeah, I know it's
2
available,
years.
but I was wondering if it took you the same struggle.
No, that was easy. That was easy.
The digital cable in the clear, the unencrypted QAM,
Yeah.
is that difficult legally, or is that...
Okay, so question is, what about digital cable in the clear QAM? You asked, is it difficult legally? I actually don't know the answer to that question. I don't know whether there's a legal problem or not, but I do know that even though the cable companies might be broadcasting content in the clear on QAM, it's absolutely their right, and they will turn that off at any unpredictable point in the future. So we have not decided to go... We think that it's not a plausible, broad end-user value proposition to say, digital cable is here, get this QAM thing, because on any day, those guys can shut off the pipe. So we're doing work to enable that as a high-end enthusiast user add-on, but we're not proposing that that's the broad end-user mainstream message for getting digital cable. Yeah?
In choosing kind of your go-to-market strategy, why did you choose a strategy that, like, the PC exists in the den, right, and then you have to deal with all the infrastructure crap of, like, bandwidth and networking versus having it be, like, next to the, home entertainment system, in which case you don't have to deal with a lot of...
The question was, why in our go-to-market strategy, why did we, as you sort of implied or said, focus on the PC in the den as opposed to the PC in the family room? The truth is we didn't do that. That just happened. We started out with the idea that we're going to get OEMs to build AV rack form factor PCs, and consumers will buy those, and that's great for Microsoft Business because it's an nth PC. We also really have believed strongly in Extender from the start. The issues have been that in terms of natural market momentum, riding the wave of desktop PCs is just easy. And, I mean, even that's not that easy, but, man, you can get 30 million units out there. Let's take a look. Actually, here's another interesting analogy. TiVo. In the U.S., incredibly recognizable brand that everyone knows. It's the verb for recording shows digitally. TiVo. What a great brand. Don't you want to be them? You know how many boxes they've sold? Not even 2 million of their own. Not even 2 million. We have more users downloading our EPG on tunered PCs than TiVo has standalone customers in the U.S. And so, on top of that, they're not profitable. Now, to give you a little bit more on my TiVo numbers, that's TiVo standalone, their box with the full features. TiVo to go, photos, music, their app platform. They have another 4 or so million DirecTV satellite set-top boxes, but DirecTV is shutting them off, and those aren't really full TiVo boxes anyway. So another issue with go-to-market, people ask us all the time. In fact, I can't tell you how many OEMs or AMD companies come into us saying, please do an embedded version of this. I love your media center experience. I want to just put that on my thing, and I don't care about the rest of Windows. And we'd love to do it. I love the product definition of that. But it doesn't really make business sense. Like, we get $70 for that Windows license, and if we did that, it would cost us a year's worth of engineering for 100 people, and we might maybe sell 1 million of them, maybe, and we could only charge $7 or $8 because the OEMs have to sell that thing inexpensively. So we want to get there, and it's our goal to get there, and you're going to hear me talk about our view of roadmap to get there, but these are the realities of the market today. Yeah, one more, I'm going to keep going.
How can it not make business sense to just end the monopoly of providers on the set-top box industry? Like, the den is...
We don't get a vote to do that. It's their network. They built it. They get to decide what they want to do.
But you've got the whole trail in bullet 2 up there. It seems to me
And that would be great. It's yeah. So this is tough. It's a tough, interesting space. We're pounding away at it. We're making progress. It's going to get better year over year, and this is a big milestone. Let me keep going. We revised the user experience. I'll show you a demo. I won't talk about it. We did platform advancements. This is worth a minute and a half. Pre-Vista, to write an app for Media Center, you wrote to the web platform, HTML, script. You could do Java. You could do Flash. You could do ActiveX. It was basically we were hosting an IE window. In Vista, we added two new significant platform capabilities. One is we support WPF, so you can write a WPF app and run it in the window. That's cool. The other one is we have a thing called Media Center Markup Language, or MCML, which is a markup language you can use, which is what we implement Media Center in. So if you want to write an app that looks and feels a lot like Media Center itself and does the same swoopy animations and animates from our experience to yours, you can write in MCML. There's an added benefit to MCML, which is, now consider the story where there's extenders. The way remoting works with extenders, I'll talk about the Xbox specifically. We ported our UI renderer to the Xbox. So when you run Media Center remoted on the Xbox, you're getting a locally rendered UI experience. You get all of the animations. You sacrifice nothing in the visual presentation of Media Center because we ported our UI renderer. When you run a third-party app that's on the web platform, that's not our renderer, the remoting is done using basically RDP, and you basically get bitmaps going. So if somebody puts animation in their Flash app, there's no way to render the animation locally on the Xbox. So you get frame drops, and it causes you to rethink how you would design an app. If you want to design an app that's great for Xbox, and you're writing to HTML, you better not put a lot of animations in because they're not going to work well. MCML renders natively on the Xbox. So if you write an app in MCML, it will render natively on the Xbox, and in the future it will render natively on other extenders, but that work's not done yet. So that's the platform advancements. And then the last thing is expanding our idea of whole home distribution. I've described the extender model. Today, the only extender you can buy is an Xbox 360. Extender is built into everyone. It works great. And we have a program called Pica. That's our internal code name. We launched it at WinHeck last year. There are 70 companies that have signed up for the Pica program, and I think 5 early go-to-market partners working right now to embed extender capability into their consumer electronics devices. So these will start coming out starting around late summer of this year. Vista has the capability for them to ship products, and our device development kit will be final around July or so. So I'll tell you who they are. HP is putting it in their TVs. LG is doing a DVD player and starting to work on a TV. Philips is working on a TV and thinking about doing a DMA, a digital media adapter. Linksys is putting it into their media lounge. No, I got that backwards. D-Link has the media lounge, and they're putting it into that, and Linksys is looking at a DVD player and a DMA. So these products will come to market at a range of price points. Obviously, a TV a lot more expensive than a $199 DMA, and give consumers with choices for how they can get this extender capability. And beyond that, like what's happening with Xbox today, think of this as a lot of seed planting. We got 30 million media centers. Now it's 35 million. In another couple months, it'll be 40 million. Then it'll be 50 million. We're planting those seeds. Xbox has shipped 10 million units, probably now almost getting to 11. By the end of the year, 20 million. We're planting those seeds. We're going to start planting TV seeds and DVD player seeds. And then someday, those people are going to have a home network. And when they have the home network, they can put these things together and get a great experience. So think of it that. So this point is getting that technology out. All right, now I'm going to demo. I've talked for a really long time and haven't demoed, and usually I just like to demo. Okay, let's see here. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. PC2. Okay, so what I've got here is PC3. Come on.
It's there. It's there. It's just sleeping.
Okay. So what I've got is I've got my own little home network with an Xbox and a Media Center PC. And we'll see if everybody wakes up. Okay. So the wide angle one is this PC. It's a Dell. These have been shipping for a little while. And I don't have, let's try this. PC2. I wonder if that's sleeping too. Okay. So that one is the Xbox, and that one is the PC. So the scenario here is home network, desktop PC in your den or your office where you would normally keep it, Xbox in the family room hooked up to the big screen TV, and now you can be working on email here while you're doing Media Center down there. You can be doing Media Center at the same time on both. We support up to 5. The way this works, if you're not familiar with it, each extender session is a separate Windows user session. So you can configure it for preferences differently. If you have one in your kid's room, it can point to different music, as an example. And they run concurrently. I'm going to show you, I'm going to mostly demo on this. I talked about the idea of next generation user experience. Well, what did I mean by that? We tried to do an update to the user experience like the major model year of a car. You know, you have each year it changes a little bit, then one year kind of changes kind of a lot. Well, that's this year. What's different about it? We did a few things. We tried to optimize for widescreen high definition displays, which is why I put it on here like this, because these projectors are 4:3, but I wanted you to see sort of the aspect ratio difference. And we tried to optimize for large libraries. And so this is probably the best example of the design revision compared to previous versions of Media Center. In previous versions, you got, in 16:9 view, you got 4 up by 3 down for albums. You got 12 on screen. In combination, broadcast quality and widescreen and large libraries, well here, we try to take advantage of the performance power of the PC to let you really crank through your music library. And we've done the layout differently so we get more content on the screen. And simple things like if you want to get to an album that starts with a T, you can type T and it jumps right down there. Okay, this is a rev to the user experience to really try to take advantage of PC power, big libraries, broadcast quality, make it attractive. Yeah, okay, well, I don't even know whose content this is. Just random demo content. If you think about other companies who will do this kind of thing, targeting set-top boxes with really limited memory and slow processors because they got to keep the cost down, they ain't doing this. Or at least that's going to be hard to do for a while, and they're probably not supporting type-in. And even if they do those things, there's scenarios where, well, I want to pivot. So I'm looking at albums. How about artists? Well, can you do it fast? How about interesting views like albums by artist, or one that I like, albums by year. So you can look at your collection according to, sort of a timeline view. We think this is the kind of thing that we can do pretty uniquely well. Why? Because we have a fat platform, we have a big dev team, we're going to iterate it year over year over year over year, keep making it better and better. Yeah, question?
You have a good music library. However, since I have the Zune or iPod, I'm more used to using, what will make me come away from the Zune player library to come here? Because
well, you don't have to make that trade-off. If you first, by far, even on iPod, in fact, Steve Jobs' letter literally quoted this yesterday or the day before yesterday. The incredible vast majority of music that's on iPods, the world's most popular device, is open MP3. It's not DRM protected, so you've got a bunch of music on your hard drive. It's going to all show up in here just like this. Same is true for Zune. Zune stores even better. With Zune, if you let's say you buy a Zune Pass, you're paying $15 a month to download as many songs as you want from Zune. They show up in here, they look just like that, and they play perfectly. They play on the PC and they play on the extender. You make no sacrifice. The playlists are different. The content is the same. And so in the case of Zune and playlists, that's a good place for us to go do work and do a better job of keeping those in sync than we do. Total opportunity there.
For me, I'm using more of my Zune player rather than actually using the Media Center just because it's an automatic place. That's where my playlist goes.
On the PC, no problem. That's perfectly fine. And in your living room with your Xbox 360, you want to go here and get all your music in your living room. Right? If you're sitting at a PC and choosing to run the 2-foot Zune player, great. We sold a Zune device. You're buying songs from us. You're happy. Love it. I'd like you to use that in your family room. And I'm going to make those things work really well together. Okay, so this gives you sort of the next generation user experience point. Yeah, sorry, question.
Does that support Windows Media Lossless?
Yep.
And on the Xbox as well?
Yep. I believe, I'm not 100% certain on the Xbox, although I'm pretty darn sure. Question was, do we support Windows Media Lossless? Definitely on the PC, and I'm 95% sure on the Xbox. Generally, so Steve was commenting, is there a streaming problem on the Xbox? Generally, music and pictures on the Xbox or on Extender, awesome experience. Because even 802.11b networking is fast enough. Though you might get drops, maybe. But the bit rates are low enough that it's no problem. Even lossless is low bit rate compared to high definition video. Okay, so I'm talking about sort of next generation user experience. I showed you music. I'm going to go show you pictures. Actually, I'm going to talk about the start menu just a little bit. We changed the start menu. There's been sort of this historical evolution of the start menu. It was first a flat list of really simple concepts: my music, my pictures, and that was that. Then we added shortcuts. Well, you got my music, but if you want to jump into an album you've been listening to lately, we'll pull that out. Or in TV, if you want to jump to recorded TV or jump to guide, we'll pull that out. Here we've taken the metaphor even farther, and there's more than one good reason for this that isn't necessarily obvious at first glance. One is, okay, we're optimizing for widescreen displays again. So that's an optimization that's, sorry, I guess I can't walk that far away. That's helpful. Second, as the depth and feature richness of the product continues to expand, how do you keep presenting it in a really simple way so added features don't cause a big complexity nightmare? Third, if a third-party app platform is a big part of your value proposition and only 7% of people were ever clicking on something called Online Spotlight, can you do a design that helps to bubble up compelling third-party apps better? And this does. In music, if I was subscribing to Napster or if we had a 10-foot version of Zune, right here you can add more tiles. The user can add them through usage. The OEM can promote them. So this scales better to promoting third-party apps better. Okay, so I was going to show you pictures. You're going to see same exact theme. Here in pictures, think about pictures as a data type. Super interesting case. Now, obviously, people buying way more digital cameras than regular cameras. And every month that goes by, they're increasing the number of pictures in their library. That's opportunity. Because if you've got 10,000 pictures in your library, being able to deal with, manage, and give you access to those in a compelling way is something we should be able to do a great job of compared to teams of 12 developers who have to write apps over a 2-year period for a device that only has 64 meg of memory, right? So here are some real-world examples. By default, I'm now looking at my pictures in date taken view, which is a query against it's actually the media player library, which is maintained as the same as the digital image library. The performance is really good. It didn't matter how I acquired these or what I named them. I get them viewed by date. If I have put tags on my pictures, I can view by tags. If I pick a tag, and I have no idea what I'm going to get when I click one of these, we'll try ski. And I will have ski pictures and I want to play a slideshow, boom, I can. There's flexibility and power in this, but we think we're keeping the UI nice and simple. And then, of course, if you want to view your pictures by folders, you can. Large libraries taking advantage of widescreen displays and making these things simple and compelling for people. So that's an example, again, of the user experience rev. I'm going to show you another example of how this design applies to other data types. I think we have an yes, we do. So we've been shipping this thing called the Movies Guide for a couple of years. And the theory is, we have this rich platform. We have lots of expert user experience kind of people. Let's go do a better job than slow grid EPGs. If you want to watch a movie, which we know, in fact, we did focus groups on people's TV watching. You could group a bunch of people who love movies. You could group a bunch of people who love sports. And there's some other groups too. So a couple of years ago, we did a version of the guide that was aimed at people who like movies. And this is how that guide view has evolved in Vista. So if you want to look for movies to watch, this is your TV program guide. You can look by star rating. You can look by movies that are on right now. You've got a PVR. You've got a giant hard drive. Why should you browse in a time-based view for movies? There's no current reason for that. It's historical only. This is a much better way to do it, and you can see how the user interface and this horizontal layout and focus on large libraries and big catalogs of content makes sense. Okay, so I gave you sort of the general idea on user experience. I want to show you the digital cable stuff. I went in here to recorded TV, and most of these high-def shows, TNT HD, that is a digital cable channel. That was recorded with a digital cable tuner. I didn't bring one, but it's just a gray box. So I'm going to start up NFL football on here. So here I am watching my high-def content. Back to, and I have full-featured PVR, of course. I can pause, skip, play, fast-forward, rewind. Back to the idea of broadcast-quality visuals. We tried to do things like this attractive overlay, mixing the content with the UI, and just make it look nice. If I go to the guide view, same idea. There's the guide as an overlay on top of video. And I'm going to, just to make this point, over here on the Xbox, imagine I'm in one room watching my high-definition video, and over here on the Xbox, you see the animations look exactly the same. There's absolutely nothing about this view that is in any way a compromise compared to using it on the PC. I'll pick some different high-def content. We'll pick Alien 3, resume this, and now I'm watching one premium movie on my Xbox, streaming high definition, and I'm watching high definition locally on my PC. I can do this on up to 5. If I want to watch live, we're smart about picking tuners. So if you got 2 tuners, if you watch live here, you've got 1 that's good to go. You start watching live there, you're good to go on 2. If a recording starts, you get prompted whether you want to cancel the recording. If I'm watching this football game live, and then my wife or my kid starts watching it live in that room, we have independent pause buffers. If we only have 1 tuner and I try to change the channel, I get warned, and we let family dynamics take over. Yeah.
What kind of network capability do you need to do that?
Oh, great question. What kind of network capability do we need to do that? Any network that's fast enough to move these bits reliably. So first, I'll give you sort of the general answer. If power line networking does, that's great. If Ethernet or if coax cable networking does, then that's great. So we don't care. We're network agnostic. But now to answer the question in the real world. Wired works great. Wired Ethernet. And I'll tell you an interesting stat. On Xbox Live today, the number one, this is usage of people using Xbox Live. The number 1 connection type is 802.11b. Not surprising. The number 2 connection type is wired Ethernet. And it's not a giant gap between those. So for some set of high-end folks in newer homes, there's wired Ethernet.
Like Cat5.
Yeah. So wired Ethernet works great. Killer experience, no compromise.
At what rate?
Yeah, 100 is fine because these streams are 20-ish megabits. The high def MPEG-2. These are high def MPEG-2 as they came off your antenna or from the cable. They've not been touched. Okay. So wired is great. In wireless, B, not even close for video. G, if you live on a farm and you don't have any brick walls and there's no interference, you don't have a B laptop, G can work. But we don't recommend it because generally there's interference all over the place and you'll experience frame drops and you'll have a bad experience. So G, not great, but can work. 802.11a actually generally works, but it has relatively short range and no one has A. Interestingly, the Xbox wireless adapter, the accessory that came with the Xbox, we worked with the Xbox team. It has A, B, and G. It has A explicitly for this. So if you get an AG router, which you can buy for, they're probably $99 now. They were $109. But you have to look for them in the back corner. Then it'll work okay on wireless in a lot of circumstances. N, we have lots of hope for. Now, there's an interesting trade-off with N. So N's coming up. Hopefully, it's ratified and starts shipping in real volume this year, maybe this summer, probably this fall. The band, the spectrum band matters. N on 2.4 gigahertz, subject to the same interference. Not good for video. N on 5 gigahertz should be great. So we're trying to evangelize the router manufacturers, the PC OEMs, to put 5 gigahertz band in these things for video. And I think we're having some pretty good luck because generally all our partners get this and they want to offer the value proposition of streaming high-def wireless video. So if that tilts to 5 gigahertz, then we could be in a pretty good situation, actually. There's a new value proposition to explain to consumers. There's all this web video. There's the Xbox 360. There's extenders forthcoming. There'll be 50, 60, 70 million media center capable PCs. Hopefully, the retailers and the Ciscos and Linksys tilt towards 5 gigahertz. And if not, then we'll wait another 2 or 3 years for the next big wave in networking. Coax and power line, I've heard mixed things. In our team, we've tested it, and nobody has ever said this one's great. I hear from external companies, we tried this one and it works great. So I think it depends on your house. It doesn't feel to me like it's there yet. Okay, so that's the networking question. So digital cable, I showed you. Let me stop that. What have I not showed you? I showed you the guide. There's little things like in the guide. We added this nice little feature for categorizing. And if I had a high-def tuner hooked up, you'd have an entry in here for HD TV so you can filter by HD and then just record your HD shows. There's lots of little things. Sports is sort of an interesting feature, not just if you're a sports fan, but also how we did it is interesting. So every time you do a big Windows release, everybody knows every feature in Windows by the time the launch comes. And the PR team, I know I've done this a few times, PR team says, do we have anything for launch? And you never do because you've already told everybody everything. So we knew this was the case, and we knew that we wanted to get to a position where we could more easily and routinely update Media Center's user interface via the server side. So we could deploy simple, straightforward features without having to rev Windows. So we built infrastructure into Vista Media Center. So you can't see this, but the Media Center start menu in Vista is dynamically updatable from the server. At any day, we can turn on a new feature and add tiles, and it'll magically appear on lots of people's screens, which we're pretty excited about. We can use that MCML. There's a form of MCML which is codeless. That it's basically a web page, but it works within our framework. Sports was a special case of us using that feature. So we built this sports feature, server-side only, had the hooks in Media Center long before Vista shipped. Vista shipped without it there, and then like 2 days before launch day, we lit it up and turned it on. And it is the first example of us doing a service feature for Media Center. And if I don't run out of time, I'm going to talk about our futures. And you'll hear that one of the things we think is pretty compelling for us is doing more service features. Why? Because we can get compelling content to people without tuners. So doing video stuff, very compelling. Second, in the economic question about, can we do set-top boxes and have them make economic sense when we're getting paid $70 for a copy of Windows today? If we can build enough features that have usage generating revenue, ads, links, referrals, whatever, for pay commerce at the time that it's out there, then we don't have to charge $70 to an OEM up front, and you can have a device that you give to consumers at much less money, and you can create an economic model that makes sense for the living room. So we think that is worthy of experimentation. So I'll give you a quick look at this. The idea is there's some significant subset of technology enthusiast people who are into sports. And we wanted to make it really easy for you to do sports kind of things. Like if you want to get the scores, you go here, and it shows you it's smart enough to distinguish whether a game is coming up. So these are games that are on today, or if a game has already been played recently, so you can see the current scores. For any given game, let's pick the Sonics Pacers game that's at 4 o'clock today. I saw the records of each team. I can get stats on the players that are playing, and if this were live, I'd get the current scores right now. The way this is done, this is all our code. It's our feature. We call it the Media Center Sports Lounge. We partnered with Fox on this. Fox is providing the data, and part of our deal is that we provide linkage to a Fox Sports application written in Media Center markup. So when I click this, we're going out to Fox's app, and now they're going to give us more details and value add related to the Sonics Pacers game if their server is up and working. And what happens here is they will eventually monetize this through ads, and we get a share of the advertising revenue on their site. So what we like about this is we think we're providing real genuine value add to end consumers who care about this. Fox, which is a deep expert in sports, we're not, gets to do the content and the work. So here you can see this thing's loaded up. And this is an example of an app in Media Center markup language. If I want to do things like get stats, I can do that. And for football, Fox has this cool thing where they show you pictures of the players and stats on the players. And they, over time, assuming there's usage, will fill this out with more engaging content and more data. So they get to do the deep stuff. We get to provide a more meaningful linkage to their app, and we get a share of the revenue. So we love this as a model, and we want to do more stuff like this. Just to show you the rest of the sports thing. So that was, I went through scores. If you're a fantasy sports fan, then you'll really get this. You can tell Media Center what players you care about. So I'm looking at NBA. If I want to add more, I go up here and click Add Players. And literally every player in the NBA is in this list. And I tell which ones I like, and then it will show me their stats. So anytime I want to know what the current yardage for Brian Westbrook is during the football season, I go there and see. But that's not all. Once you've taught Media Center what players you like, then in a view called On Now, which is about watching sports, imagine I should have left the football game running. Because if I left the football, in fact, I might be able to just hit play. If I had left the football game running, the football game would be playing here, so I'm watching sports. Up top, I'm getting live scores for all the sporting events that are actually on and being played right now. It looks like right now there are not any. But I could tune to all these other sporting events on TV. And, thank you, I don't have a tuner. But I have a guide set up, so it thinks there's a tuner. If there was sports on TV right now, I would see the score, and I could jump to that. And then down here, I'm getting news alerts. And if any of my players scores, I get a news alert for that player. So it's Sunday. I'm a fantasy football fan. I've taught Media Center that I care about Brian Westbrook. I'm watching the Seahawks game. If Brian Westbrook scores a touchdown, it'll say Brian Westbrook scored a touchdown. If I have that game in my TV lineup, I can click the watch button, and probably, because the internet is fast and broadcast is slow, I can do that in time to catch the replay. So this, putting these things together we think, can make the TV watching experience uniquely better. We combine internet services with broadcast services, and we can give good experiences to people. And then the last part of this is this on later view, where, again, like I talked about this in the context of movies, why should you use a grid-based view to find TV shows if all you're going to do is record them? For sports, what I care about is I want to know on Sunday for NCAA basketball, when Stanford plays Washington, I want to record that game. That's way easier than trying to browse through 7 days of program guide and figure out what channel it's on. Right? It's simple, specialized user interface that's designed for people to do the kind of tasks they want to do. And implementing this is quite inexpensive for us because we have a good UI framework. So that's the sports feature. I'm going to show you one more feature which is not shipping yet. And it goes with this theme of services. In fact, to do this, I have to swap my network connection because I have to be on. Just give me a second to swap this. So I'm going to show you a feature that we're planning to deploy around April or May. Our code name internally is Newport, and what it is a Media Center markup language-based internet video portal. And currently, it points to MSN video content. So I probably need to wait and get this an IP address. So here, in my TV and movies thing, what's going to happen is, on whatever date this thing launches, pretend that's not there, because it starts out empty. But the day this thing launches, we're going to deploy from the server, and we're going to light it up. We currently have it saying MSN Video, because that's all the content that's in it yet. The naming and branding, we don't really have figured out yet. It probably will not say MSN Video, although it might. Yeah, sorry.
When something new appears, are you going to kind of highlight it, or just hope that the user notices?
Yeah, right now we're just going to hope the user notices. But if that's something we have to fix, we'll work on that later. So I'm going to click this, although I don't know if my IP address has changed yet. So this gets deployed from the server, and what it is in its form today is a Media Center markup language front end on the MSN Video data store. And so it's an ad-supported way to watch videos on MSN. And the team has tried to build this in a way that, although it only has MSN videos today, we could easily add ABC, NBC, CBS, and all those, expand it to include a much broader set of web-based streaming videos. And they'll be ad-supported. So here I am looking at TV. In each category, there's top 10 and featured. So top 10 is dynamic from the service. What are people actually watching? And featured is an editorial distinction, and that's why the thumbnails are better. If I go up here, Soapbox is user-generated. You're familiar with MSN Soapbox, so who knows what we're going to see in there. Sports is more sports content. News is news. I'm going to pick music because it's sort of an interesting case. In music, the MSN Video folks have gotten a bunch of relatively high-quality encodings of concerts, and I'm not really sure which ones are which, but we'll give this a try and see if I'm actually connected. I think I am. And so you get a sense for the experience of watching web video. First you get an ad, and then you get web video, just like you do on websites today, except for YouTube. Yeah, go ahead, question.
So you've got the providers in online spotlight, right?
Yep.
Where are we going to have parity or consistency in there? Because like today, if you subscribe to like Urge, right? We don't have the widget. We dropped a long time ago the MSN Music widget out of there.
Right.
How are we going to keep that parity? Because I think for users going from the 2-foot to the 10-foot, we're not leveraging the ecosystem enough in some of those areas.
The question was, what are we going to do about parity and experience? But there are a couple different things you could mean. You might mean between 2-foot and 10-foot for third-party apps, or you also might mean between content that would appear in this experience and content that would be an online Spotlight app. So I'll tell you some of our philosophy around this. Here's what we're finding. We're going to companies and saying, the number one online Spotlight app today is Comedy Central. It has the most usage, done by Viacom. We go and talk to these guys. We say, hey, do you guys want to do, they did Turbo Nick, same company, Viacom, in Media Center markup language. Hey, you all, let's keep going with this. And what they're starting to say is, we really love the idea of building these interactive applications. We love the flexibility on the platform. We love that our brand gets in there. But you know what? It's a lot of work. And it's costing us a lot of money. And it sure would be great if you guys would just build one framework and we could just give you our content, which is what's happening on Xbox Live Video Marketplace. So what we're finding is there's going to be this range among the people, the content providers, of whether they want to invest a lot to have a highly customized, very differentiated experience, or whether they want to invest less and let us do the heavy lifting of making a great, compelling, easy to navigate user experience, which their content flows through and just generates money for them. We have so far been all over here, but now we're introducing a value proposition that's over here, and we think a lot of people are going to take us up on it. It's also our opinion that this is better for end users because, frankly, most of the third-party apps that have been written for Media Center are just not very good. And we will maintain a level of quality that's generally higher than them because we're making a much bigger investment than most of them are.
I don't understand when you're going here, here, and here. So which scenario would, let's say, the MTV folks doing Earth, right? They say, we want to get this content, right? What platform should we be writing to, right? This Media Center specific one, the Xbox specific one?
Yeah. They have to make a decision about which ones make the most sense for them. And it is not as simple a case as saying, here's one that works for everything. The closest thing to that is Windows Presentation Foundation. If you want to write one bunch of code that will run on Windows in a 2-foot app, that you can change its user interface presentation to run in 10-foot, and then have it also run on Xbox, Windows Presentation Foundation is the closest thing. But even that's not going to get it running natively on Xbox absent extender. Xbox is just a different closed platform. So we have some answers that I think are actually reasonably good. None is perfect. And I expect companies will make different decisions based on the circumstances. Another route where we would like to get is to say to video content companies, we have a video service. We're going to make it flow through Xbox and Media Center. If you give us your content, or give is not really the right connotation, but include your content in our service, you'll make a lot of money and you don't need to worry about this problem. We'll handle it for you. In that model, I expect lots of companies will take us up on it.
Why haven't we started that with audio content then too? I mean, I don't mean to badge you, but
we have done that in audio content. That's what Zune basically is. There's 4 giant record labels, and they all flow their content into Zune, and we handle the user experience.
Well, but so the Media Center experience, the Xbox experience, the device experience, and the 2-foot UI are all over the map for those people, right? I mean, the consistency. Where do they get that? Are we really serving them well to?
Well, it's a different. I think it's a different question or critique, and a fair one, to say we haven't synchronized, Media Center, Media Player, Xbox UI, Zune UI, as well as we should. I agree. We should do better, but it's not a structural problem of the platform in the industry. In the case of music, those guys, the way they work, there's no, EMI experience. EMI licenses their content to everybody. In video, it's different. If you want Lost, you have to go to the ABC site. So the world for each of these data types is changing based on the business models of the content owners, and we're seeing it changing in real time. And so I kind of think there's more than one subject you're talking about. One is, could we do a better job of rationalizing all our user experiences? Yeah, we probably could.
No, I guess that's not really my point. My point is, how do we help the providers and help these people who want to plug into our ecosystem, leverage the whole ecosystem rather than having to target very specifically? It doesn't sound like we're...
Well, there are a number of things that we do there. One is we have Windows Media DRM, which works across all these things. You provide your content protected with Windows Media DRM. It'll play on the PC, it'll play on the Xbox, it'll play on... It actually won't play on the Zune. It's the one exceptional example. The Zune team made a business decision based on market dynamics and what iPod's position is, and they think it's the right one. And maybe over time they'll decide it was, and maybe over time they'll decide it wasn't. But that's an explicit trade-off they made.
My point is more, and I'll stop on this, but my point, though, is more about not about the digital format, but about the service presentation. You want to present a service.
Right.
Right? You're locked down.
I'm with you. And there, we think we should do better. Like, my team is spending a bunch of time with the Xbox Live Video Marketplace to try to get to one presentation of offer, maybe with one brand. We're not really sure what the right answer is yet, but we're pretty sure we can do better. So we're definitely thinking about that and talking about it, although we don't necessarily have an answer. Actually, can I get you to hold your question? Because I want to show you guys one slide, and then I'm going to be done. That was my last demo, by the way. Because I haven't talked about futures, I just want to make sure you get a chance to sort of see how we think about this and what we have in mind. I'm going to skip that. We call this our layer cake, and this is a way that we talk to our own team about our goals for the next, think about this as the next 5 years or so. And so these are both business goals, which result in revenue to the company, and strategic goals. Everybody faces this all over the place in the company. One set of people in the ranks of the execs want you to focus 10 years out and be strategic and don't worry about money. I could give you some good quotes on that from execs. You guys are worried too much about making money. And then there's a whole bunch of other people who actually worry about whether our stock price is going up or down in the short term, and they want you to make money. So how do you rationalize these things? So this is our layer cake. Our first objective is to keep focusing on mix shift, because mix shift gets us distribution. Let's get our software out there. They're platform sockets. There's the possibility of getting people to use them. And we make money. So this is a money goal. Let's go finish getting the home premium version of Windows on as many PCs as possible. And mostly what that means is we've got to implement more TV standards worldwide. The other place that we don't have a massively great value proposition is in laptop. And laptop is about half the PC market for consumers, so we need to make sure that we do well on laptop. So that's the first objective. Second thing is, given distribution, this is a strategic goal, it has no money associated with it directly. Given distribution, let's go make sure we have usage. And that's sort of it's kind of an abstract thing. That says to program managers, think about marketing. Think about whether you should book some of your dev resources on a retail demo. Think about whether, instead of writing another feature in Media Center, you should write a sidebar gadget that's helping people to understand the value proposition of Media Center. Or maybe we should be working on a website instead of code in Media Center. Or maybe what we should do, actually this is something we did, previous to Vista, when you ran Media Center for the first time, so in that 77% number, you had to go through like a 6-step wizard before you could use it. In Vista, it's one little dialog, and you can click Express, and then you're using it. So what can we do to take obstacles out of people's way and get them using it? Let's get Extender in more devices. That'll increase usage. So think about usage as separate from distribution, because we're getting close to almost plateauing in distribution. So usage. Now, once you have usage, you can start to monetize it, right? Sort of web economics. And so for us, at the current point in time, that's mostly an experimental statement. Doing things like sports, doing things like this video portal. What are the things that we can do that are service-based on the back end, that we get out to people without needing to rev Windows, because we don't want that gating factor on our ability to deliver innovation. And we want to find ways that we can actually generate revenue. And if I had more time, I could talk about this much more specifically. We think we can make just as much money from service revenue as we do from a COA. And here's some really simple math. Average PC life cycle, 4 years. Amount of uplift we get for Home Premium, $8. That's $2 a year. Do you think we could make $2 a year in service-based features pretty easily? I sure do. We should sure try to do that. And then once, if we get a good service revenue stream, then that enables the fourth thing, which is getting our technologies and our experience into the living room. If you have a service revenue stream, then you can do subsidy of boxes that are inexpensive that get hooked up to the TV set, and you don't need the situation where you've got to charge $70 or $80 for a Windows license. So this is how we think about this thing, and we try to invest across all of these. A lot of our current development investment is here. Some of it is here. There's some here. I wish it was more. We need to get better at shifting what we think about, but that's good. You got to get a team to change their mindset. And then some reasonable amount is up there in terms of Extender is really a big bet for the living room for us. So this is how we think about things strategically. I'll end on this. We're working towards a release called Fiji, and we're still doing planning and negotiating with the Windows team. We're hoping that we can get a release done in the end of 07, early 08 timeframe. Its primary pillars are support for worldwide TV standards, specifically including ISDB for Japan and DVB-S for Europe. Secondly, premium satellite services. We have deals with DirecTV, Dish, Canal Plus in France, and Sky in the UK. All of those are making good progress, and we hope to get those all to market, and that'll create competition for cable and different go-to-market approaches, and that'll keep moving the ball forward. That's the second thing that we're working on for Fiji. Third thing is service-related features and making service features more deeply integrated into the experience. And then the fourth is a pillar that we call Media Center Markets itself, where we promote our own features in engaging in interesting kinds of ways to get people more engaged in usage of it. So we're hoping to get that release done, but as I said, we're still negotiating specifics in our own team, doing bottoms-up planning and working with Windows. So that's basically my story, and I'll take questions for whoever wants to hang around here.
Where does Home Server fit into this?
Different group. We have pretty reasonable like a bunch of people on our team self-host it and beta test it, and a bunch of folks in their team are media center enthusiasts. We wish that we had a more aligned roadmap in the short term. Right now, it's not nearly as aligned as really it should be or that we would like, but that's sort of a short-term technology fact. The home server team made the decision to create their product on Windows Server 2003 because Vista Server was a ways out, and there's no way for us to get Media Center bits in that. So it's essentially a separate storage server that we can make work reasonably with Media Center. But what we would like to do, and we have sort of a loose plan, for the second version of that thing to be a Media Center server. So you can buy that thing with 6 tuners, put it in your basement and a giant amount of hard drive, and run 5 extenders off it, or 10 extenders off it. We're looking at ways that we can accelerate that value proposition, although we haven't figured out an answer yet and don't have a concrete plan. Yeah?
So on the subject of having 6 tuners, have you guys looked at sort of aggressively recording things that the user hasn't asked for? So like sports, for instance, you said, I'm interested in these players. You could be sitting there recording whenever they're playing, and when they make a goal, you could show the last minute of that game.
Good idea. We don't really have a lot of work in that space. Sorry, the question was, have we looked at doing aggressive recording of stuff on the user's behalf without them asking? We think about it, but it's never bubbled to the top of the list of priorities enough to actually get work done against it, and I think it's a good idea. Yeah, go ahead.
So in your deals with, you mentioned DirecTV going forward and Dish, so is the idea that it's the same with the cable card, you'll have a card in there, you'll be able to record
The question was, for the satellite providers like DirecTV and Dish, will it be like cable where you get a tuner and you have to put in some security card and then you record them and stream them out? Yes. And actually, in my opinion, I think we'll get more favorable DRM and go-to-market terms from the satellite vendors than we have from cable, both because cable is so massively conservative and didn't want to do it, and now satellite wants to compete with them, and also just by nature they're a little bit more aggressive. So the working with satellite has been much easier than working with cable. We get along with them fine. It's good collaborative stuff. They definitely worry about content protection, but I think we'll get more done. So it should be good when we get there. So actually, look over here because I got you already once.
I was thinking about non-10-foot UI interfaces such as touch interfaces.
Oh, question was, are we thinking about non-10-foot UI interfaces like touch? Yes, but mostly only as a side project. So to sort of illustrate that and as a real-world example, Media Center supports a thing, and we did a little bit of work, a couple of devs for a couple of weeks. You can set a reg key that says be in touch mode. And when you do that, it'll keep the home button, the back button. If I move the mouse, oh, sorry, it's not on screen. If I move the mouse, you get a home button, a back button, place, pause. The buttons that would be on the remote, they show up in the UI. You can set a reg key so that those are persistent on the screen, and that in cases where lists need to scroll, arrows for scrolling will stay persistent on the screen, and then it works okay for touch. The HP TouchSmart PC, which is one of the Vista cool PCs, has all of its touch capabilities that HP custom wrote as WPFs inside the Media Center framework, and they run Media Center in touch mode. It's not fantastic. It could be better, but it works. It's pretty good.
Any plans for the future, or is it going to stay like that?
We'll keep investing a little bit. We don't have plans to invest a lot, but we'll keep investing a little bit. Sorry. Yeah, over there.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's some viral marketing opportunities. So a lot of things like sports and going to the movies are things that people traditionally do with other people. And a lot of people are thousands of miles away from their friends and family for some reason. I mean, even like if you're in a motel and you would like to watch the kids, bedtime video with them. This is a position where what you want to do is, if I want to watch European football with my buddies who, whatever, there ought to be some way so that one guy could get other people hooked into it, and if we could somehow watch the same sports game with like-minded people, it's sort of like going to a bar or something.
The question or comment was, it would be great to do collaborative features that could influence viral marketing in terms of people experiencing things together. Just a couple random comments. One is that I agree with you. It would be great to do that. And we're sort of in this mode of, we're mostly still eating vegetables. Like, we didn't have support for digital cable high def, for goodness sake. We still don't have support for satellite. We've got to get that work done. And while we're doing that, we're trying to do small innovative things like sports, but not so much in the big innovative things. We will get to it. Second, worth mentioning, we built in a messenger feature pre-Vista, and actually got very low usage, and we didn't port it to Vista. Which is not to say that those scenarios aren't good. I still think they are. We have experimented a little bit. It hasn't gone well so far. We just haven't got the formula right. And then the last thing is that today there's a lot of sensitivity among the broadcasters and the net operators, cable in particular, around scenarios where you place shift the content. So place shifting with cable is absolutely off the table in the short term. It's probably off the table with satellite in the short term. Probably it will be a little bit of time before those companies are willing to let the content which they're licensing from the studios be place shifted, because they have contract agreements that specify the terms in which their distribution of the content is authorized for people to play it back. So there's definitely contractual issues related to that, and it'll take some time.
Let's say a live football game or something, it should be the same experience as going to a bar or something, right?
Well, no, because actually football is the worst case. Because in football, the NFL tells the broadcasters that you cannot play this game in certain locations because it matters to their ticket sales. And they do different deals for different regions, and they have different windows in which the content is. So there's a very sophisticated...
Watching the video through the Fox. Can't you set up a side
totally
channel?
agree that there's no technical basis for this. There
I mean, we're both getting it from Fox, so what's the difference?
Well, the NFL can choose to license that content to Fox under any terms they want to, and the current terms they have licensed it under say you can't do that kind of thing. Because they want to charge extra for it, or different for it, or have a different window. That's just the content terms.
Side window on the side while we're both watching Fox directly through Fox.
I'm just saying that there are problems with trying to make content get displayed in more than one region at a time from a single broadcaster. Certainly not unsolvable and not technical.
Both watch it through our own provider.
Oh, that would be okay. Yes, absolutely. You're right. That would be fine. That would be fine.
Simultaneously.
You're right. Yeah, that would be fine. Go ahead.
So, as part of this contribution, are you looking at things like what Sideshow technology is doing?
Yes. Question was, are we looking at things like what Sideshow is doing? Sideshow is an interesting specific example because Sideshow provides a good mechanism in a specific case for us to do great remote controls. So the Sideshow team is doing a Media Center gadget that does control for Media Center, and we have like 3 or 4 prototype Sideshow remotes that have that gadget running on the remote screen. And right now the Sideshow team is doing it. We expect that our team will pick that work up in Fiji so we can make it more rich and complete as a control UI mechanism for Media Center. So yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking, along the lines of your service-oriented things, are you thinking of having a more intimate relationship with the individual user, like who they are?
Yes, definitely. The question was, in line with the service stuff, are we thinking about maintaining a more close relationship with the consumer, knowing who they are, what zip code they're in, potentially, their income, their interests, all those things? Yeah, because that enables you to do a much better job of, targeted advertising. And in my personal opinion, if we're going to ever make ads simultaneously financially viable and not rude to the consumer, then we have to create value in them. And the best real-world example I give to that is watching movie trailers. Movie trailers are ads, but I like watching them. And, under the right timing and circumstances, and if it's of interest to me. So any technology or go-to-market mechanism that helps us create that dynamic, that's what we got to do. So that's sort of exactly what I'd say we're aiming at. Yeah, go ahead.
The demo that you showed, the ads were being displayed by Fox or some other provider, right? Not
2 different cases. In the case of sports, the question was, in the demo I showed, where were the ads coming from? In the case of sports, when I went to the Fox pages, Fox owns that UI. So in that case, the ads are quote-unquote coming from Fox, but actually in our deal, Fox gets them from our ad center. But it's still Fox's decision. So that's case 1. Case 2 is in the video example, the video ads are coming from Ad Center because that's our service. Yes, right there. Go ahead.
So there's Windows Vista Photo Gallery and Windows Vista, and then there's Media Center Photo Gallery. So how are they different? I mean, when people are using it, do they integrate, or how does that work?
The question was, what's the relationship of Windows Vista Photo Gallery to Media Center's photo experience? They do integrate. The general comment that I make about the difference between these things, same media player, for music and Media Center, is that our user experience is designed for consumption primarily, for use with a remote control at 10 feet on a TV screen. The Windows Vista Photo Gallery ain't that at all. Like, you couldn't use it with a remote. You couldn't. It would not make sense to display that through your Xbox on your TV. So we think of ourselves as an alternate user experience explicitly designed for use with the remote on a TV set and focused on consumption. It turns out that lots of people choose to use us for other things, but that's not what the primary design point is. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you view Apple's iTV as a competitor? Like, when I hear you talk about extender, it sounds great, but I think the perception out in the market is that iTV's there, and
yeah.
I don't think there's great perception in the market. Does extender even exist?
Yeah, so the question was, do we view it's Apple TV now, as a competitor? And then the comments that you added were that you think that in the market, people believe that Apple TV is there and extender's not. Yes, we view it as a competitor. 2, it's not there. It hadn't shipped. And 3, you're absolutely correct that we have a big marketing, go-to-market, user awareness problem. And I cannot tell you how much I've been beating up on marketing teams in both Xbox and Windows about this fact.
Just look at CES.
Yes, I totally agree.
No extended
in fact, like to even put a finer point on it, compare these value propositions. For $300, you can buy an Apple TV, which lets you get your pictures and your music and some iTunes content on your TV, full stop. Or, for $300, you can buy an Xbox 360, which will play Xbox games, enable you to watch DVDs, let you hook up an HD DVD drive, get all your pictures, music, videos in a better experience, get third-party apps and third-party video content, and do high-definition or standard-definition TV and PVR. We should be killing them! And yet no one knows. It's very frustrating. And I think your observation is right on. You can tell that I'm passionate about that. Go ahead.
So what about software extenders? What about enabling this scenario?
The question is, what about software extenders? And what I assume you mean by that is, I've got a laptop. I want to be able to use it as an extender. We love this scenario. And we have had various sort of starts and stops on working on it. So I'll tell you a little bit of a story here. We had the concept of soft sled, which was literally a software extender where you run the software, it's an extender, and it does just what an extender does, which is remote the user experience, render it locally, and then remote the rendering of video content. We thought we would build that product and bring it to market. We have decided not to for a bunch of practical reasons. And the practical reasons are that, one, if we do it that way, now we have to describe 2 things. We have to describe Media Center and the Media Center extender that runs on the same machine as Media Center. That seems confusing. In particular, with Vista Home Premium, wanting to get Home Premium on laptops. You know, if we get Home Premium on laptops, Media Center is going to already be there. We don't want 2 things. We want just one thing. We want Media Center itself on a PC laptop to remote content from another Media Center. We think that's a better, simpler approach. Second, related to go-to-market, we could either decide to charge money for that or make it free. If we were going to charge money for it, we might as well just get people to buy Vista Home Premium, which goes back to my first point, simpler user experience and we get money. If we were going to make it free, then it would have to be pretty low dev cost to us with some business benefit. Given that we're going to be selling 70% Media Center, there's not much business benefit we're going to get in terms of new money. And second, it ain't cheap to implement if you consider doing it on non-Vista. Why? Because on Windows XP, we don't have an MPEG-2 codec. So we either have to build the thing and make it work with any MPEG-2 codec in the world, or we've got to go do some deal and have some license and charge money to put our MPEG-2 codec on there. And all this work doesn't seem worth it. So the direction that we're picking is we want to integrate that functionality into Media Center and get people to put Home Premium on laptops. And I don't think that work is scheduled for the next year release, but we keep beating ourselves up over it, and we definitely want to get it done. Yeah.
I got another question. What about the radio? It seems that a lot of the things are focused on the TV, but not on the radio, where there could be the same experience in terms of recording. The
question was, what about radio? We support FM radio today, and you can record, but we don't have a program guide, and we haven't invested that much in it. We'd like to do a little bit more with internet radio, but this is not going to bubble high for us in terms of feature prioritization. We probably will never do that much. In Europe, this is getting outside my expertise, I think it's DVB-S radio is pretty popular, or is it DVB-T radio? I can't remember. There is one of those standards that we know we need to support because it's heavily used. But outside of that, I don't think we'll be making very much investment. Yeah, go ahead.
On the upgrade path, if you had Media Center 2004, I don't think it was possible to get 2005 without buying a new PC. At Media Center 2005, and you go to Vista, and then you're talking about coming up with a new version of Media Center every year, whereas the operating system is not going to be released every year. You know, those kind of get out of phase pretty quickly.
The question was, how do upgrades work version to version? And so you made the assertion that for Media Center 2004, you couldn't get Media Center 2005 unless you bought a new PC. Actually not true. It depends on who you bought your PC from. The way these releases have worked, and there's been more than one way, and I wish it were simpler, but it's not. In the early years, you'd buy Media Center, and then you could get the next version of Media Center, in theory, for free from your OEM. We made a free upgrade available to every OEM for all of their customers. And the OEMs got to decide whether they wanted to offer it to their customers and at what price. Well, why did we do that? Because in the early years, all of the tuner drivers and graphic drivers were, they were not well optimized for Media Center, and so you needed new drivers when you went to new versions. We changed from, I can't even remember, from DX8 to DX9, and so you needed a different graphics driver. And we were not in a good position to do that software upgrade ourselves. The OEMs needed to do it with their customers, give drivers for their hardware, and be there to support them as they went through that more difficult upgrade. So it depended on your OEM. As of Media Center 2005, the update to that, which came in fall of 2005, was called Update Rollup 2, and everybody got it for free via Windows Update. The Vista upgrade, you can just go buy and upgrade any version of Windows, and I'm not sure how gracefully we handle it, but it will work. On a going forward basis, the model will be like the Update Rollup 2 model, where if you buy Vista Home Premium today, assuming we get this feature release planned and done, it'll be a free update on Windows Update. We don't face the problem of, well, you absolutely must have new drivers. So we can do much more easy, less painful software upgrades. Yeah?
So
two more questions. Sorry, go ahead.
So Xbox 360 is the only extender right now?
Right now, it's the only one that will work with Windows Vista. We had a hardware, sorry.
So is there going to be more, like a third-party thing?
Yes. So the question...
What kind of capabilities do you mandate to that? I guess they have to be able to render this CN, MCN.
Actually, no, so I'll answer your question. The question was, if the Xbox 360 is the only extender today, then what other ones are coming and what do they have to do to get there? We have this kit, the code name is Pica. It's the extender software adaptation kit. It's basically a source code kit so that people doing devices on Linux can run extender code. Today, it targets the Sigma Designs 8622 chip. And we haven't done ports for any other chips. We're starting to work with Broadcom to target their family of chips, but that'll be about another year out. For a partner to use it, they don't actually have to render MCML. That will be an optional feature in the future. For a partner to use it, what they need to do is they need to have networking hardware in their device, obviously. And then it is built as layers on top of DLNA. So DLNA specifies basic protocols for discovery and connectivity and data formats that you have to support. So you have to support MP3 and you have to support JPEG. There's two more layers that you add to that to have extender. You add a layer which is the Windows Media DRM and codecs. So now you support WMA, WMV, and the protected content. And then you add a second layer on top of that, which is the extender stuff. And the extender stuff basically just enables extender. So if you are a company that already has an 8622 chip in your device, and all the ones I mentioned do, and you already have networking built in, then you license this from us for pennies per unit, and you add that to your device, and then you're done. It's an extender.
Then what kind of user experience do you get if you can't render the...
It's only in the fidelity of the rendering. What you'll get is a less animated view of the same UI. So you'll get, instead of getting swoopy motion when you move around, you'll get, here's the thing, you click right arrow, you just get that. You get that. That's the difference. You'll have a loss in visual fidelity in the short term. Probably another year and a half. The chips that people are using will be able to do the animation and 3D rendering, and then you won't have that problem anymore. But that's a sacrifice that happens based on the cost of the device. To keep the device cost lower, the Xbox is subsidized, has way more powerful hardware. You sacrifice the fidelity of the visuals. Okay, one more. We'll go here because you have an answer.
Do you enforce any networking standards on the Pica devices to make sure that there's good high-definition rendering across the network?
Do we enforce any networking requirements on Pica? I don't know. I do know that we are doing a certification program which is going to affect our ability to scale to a lot of partners. And we're doing tests of video rendering performance. So we're definitely testing the stuff. We're definitely certifying it. I don't know if there's a specific requirement for networking technology itself, or whether we just say, put your networking in, and we're going to make sure your video streaming performance is good. One of those two. All right, thank you very much. Hope this was interesting and useful. And I'll be around packing up if you want to ask any more questions.